Hey everyone, it's Mike, and as promised, I'm going to make this the first video in my mini-series that I've announced a little while back, which was going to be about different game genres and, what makes them fun. But I'm going to change it a little bit, and instead of talk about what makes it fun, I think for everybody, I'm going to talk about what makes it fun for me. And, you guys will make your comments probably, and we'll see, what makes that game fun for you, or if you agree with me, or if we don't find that type of genre fun at all and you want to prove me wrong, go ahead. So that's, basically what this is going to be. I'm going to pick some games in a genre that I've played and enjoyed and talk about them for a bit. And it'll, allow you guys to see, to get more knowledge on me about who I am as a gamer. So with that said, I'm going to go into it. So I've mentioned that the first genre in this mini series is going to be platformers, because it's the first type of game that I've ever played. I started playing games back in the very, very early 90s as a young lad, and my first game, as I've mentioned before, was Super Mario Bros. The original with Duck Hunt. Great game, very, very classic game. Love it to death. But why did it hold up for me, right? As a kid, and playing something that's your first game ever, I feel like you're just gonna love it automatically, and that kind of becomes your thing moving forward. But some people fall off of it. Some people are like, okay, that was pretty cool. What else is there? And then they never look back. They move on to something else, and they're just like, okay, I'm done with that previous thing. But platformers and Mario in general hold up for me. So there has to be something to it, right? So what I personally like about it, and I'll start with the Mario games, is the simplicity of it. So it was simple enough for a child, a very young child, to learn how to play. And even though I wasn't very good at it, I definitely didn't beat it as a young child. It was enjoyable for me. It wasn't overly, difficult. Your move set as it is very easy to, work with and to remember. You're just moving forward and jumping. That's really it. And you can hold a button down to run, but you're basically running and jumping, right? And collecting power-ups and smashing some baddies. That's basically Mario, isn't it? And in the earlier Mario games, there were worlds, so you would go onto a new world and it would look different than the previous world. Maybe it would have some different enemies, not really different power-ups, because, the first Mario game obviously was very limited on that. But you felt like you were going to someplace new, so as you're moving forward, just everything is feels fresh. Think about games that came out before Mario. You're basically playing on a very similar stage multiple times, trying to get a high score, and it really is just the same game throughout. Maybe it'll up the difficulty as you progress, but you're playing on kind of the same map in a way. Some older arcade games, you know what I'm talking about. But in this game, it changes as you go along, and there was no bosses. The only boss in Super Mario Bros. Was Bowser at the very end, right? I'm pretty sure there was no other bosses. But even that in itself was different. That you've reached the end. You're like, oh wow, this is way different than any world I've been on, because now I'm fighting this big dragon dude who is freaking awesome and huge compared to the other enemies. So there's a big difference there. Well, actually, you know what? Weren't you facing Bowser on every single stage, every world? I don't know. I don't remember. It's been a long time. But yeah, it's still awesome. It still holds up to me. And the Mario games that came out after that, and I'm not going to talk about 2. 2 is awesome for its own reason, but it's, everyone knows it's not really Mario. So Super Mario Bros. 3, which is one of my favorites, was different in that, well, it was definitely better looking. The worlds were way more distinguished, so it enhanced that feeling of, progression, of getting, to a different place as you move forward. And you got new bosses, the Koopalings, I think they're called, that they throw in there. You had to face off against, and they all they look different, but they also function differently, the way they attack you. And you got new power-ups now. And the cool part about adding those power-ups is that, they also added a storage system for that. So you could have a couple of power-ups stored that you can, use on the next stage if you want, that kind of thing, which was really, really cool. I feel like that was highly innovative for its time. So Super Mario Bros. 3, I will play that with anybody, anytime. I just love that game. And then you go on to Super Mario Bros., let's say, taking out the 3D Mario games, still sticking with 2D side-scrolling, whatever you call it. New Super Mario Bros. Is awesome because, it enhanced on the stuff that Super Mario Bros. 3 enhanced. So they just made it bigger and better. More power-ups. And now you also, in different bosses, but now you could also go back into stages, which is something you couldn't do before. Because now they add collectibles, and collectibles are, another thing that makes it a game that you want to go back and continue playing. At least for me, it is. I always thought that was like, whoa, I completed a course, but hey, I can go back in there? Oh, I'm missing something. And you just want to try to get it. And sometimes you need one of those new power-ups to do it. Sometimes there's like a secret passage somewhere you couldn't find before or whatever. I love that kind of stuff. So yeah, all that together made, over the years, Mario really held up for me, and it still does, because they really do continue to innovate that particular game. I think it's great. The other huge series, that's another platformer, of course, that I was a massive fan of as a kid, even more so than Mario once I got into it, was Mega Man. Both the X series and, classic Mega Man. And Mega Man X came first. That was the first Mega Man game I've ever played, and hoo boy was that game tough to beat. I mean, as a kid at least. Now I can do it pretty much blindfolded. I've beaten it so many times. But that game opened the floodgates to so many Mega Man games. I was just a huge fan. Like how you have like a favorite superhero growing up? Yeah, Mega Man was my superhero. I just wanted, to see, every day to have, some kind of involvement with that game. I even watched like the US like Mega Man cartoon as a kid that my dad found for me. He's like, hey, you're a fan of that game, right? Check this out. And it freaking blew my mind. Yeah, that was cool. So now with this game, it's a lot tougher, right? The moveset's still simple, so it has that simplicity in it that Super Mario had. But now you have courses that are, I think, far more tricky. Okay, they're definitely difficult. Just the enemies are more difficult than Super Mario's enemies, and just traversing the course itself is very, very difficult. A lot of people know this. It's like a fact. I would say that the biggest factor for me was, the different power-ups you can get. I think the power-ups really really, unlike Mario, give you a true sense of building up that character, right? Building up, who you're playing as. With Mario, you get your power-ups, you get hit, and you lose it. And then you're basically the same throughout, for the most part. But in Mega Man, especially Mega Man X, you get these armor upgrades that make you stronger and give you different powers. You get, you can increase your health. You can, get items that can make, allow you to heal. All really useful and really cool stuff. And you can take, every time you fight a boss at the end of a stage, you copy their power. So you have that power for the rest of the game, and you can use that in any way you want. And, different bosses are weak to those powers. So really, really cool stuff. I just freaking love it. So I'm glad I get to talk about these games, because these games, especially, Mario and Mega Man made my childhood for real. The third game I'm going to talk about was not a childhood game for me. I think, I played it as a young adult, I would say, but it stuck with me. I absolutely love this game. I think it's one of the best 2D I can't talk now. 2D platformer games in existence. I really do. And that is Shovel Knight by Yacht Club Games. Great company. Any game that they come out with, I'm willing to give a try because of Shovel Knight. Now, Shovel Knight for me, this game was kind of a combination of different games. You got some elements of Super Mario Bros. 3 in there. Definitely some elements of Mega Man, because you have these night bosses at the end of each stage. You don't get their powers, really, but, they're there, and they're different, and they're cool. You do get power upgrades. I'll talk about that in a bit. But, and there's a progression, just, again, like I said, like Super Mario Bros. 3, you start on a stage, and you can go back into the stage, unlike Super Mario Bros. 3, because there's a ton of stuff to collect. So that part is actually more like Super Mario Bros. U, even though, it kind of looks similar to, if you played Shovel Knight and the map where you choose your courses, the overhead kind of does look like Super Mario Bros. 3. But then you've also got the story. There's more of a story in Shovel Knight, to me, than in both Mega Man and Super Mario, because, there's a lot of dialogue. There is. I mean, not a ton. It's not like a, JRPG or something like that. But, you can go around and, talk to NPCs in it. There's a dialogue with the bosses that give you some insight to your history with those other knights. And then there is a goal that you're trying to work towards at the end, other than, well, it is kind of a save the princess type goal, but with a twist. And I don't want to spoil any of that for you, because the ending actually took me by surprise still, and, even choked me up a little bit as an adult. It stuck with me. I freaking love it. So, hey, if you're listening to this and you've never played Shovel Knight, please just go. It's a very cheap game. You can probably find it on a discount, and it'll be even cheaper. And just play that game. Just play the first course, and you'll see what I'm talking about. If you're a fan of, side scrollers like me, you'll love this game. I promise you. If you're not, it's, your mileage may vary. You might end up liking it, or you might not, But I still encourage everyone to give it a shot. It is a fun game with great mechanics. So, highly, highly recommend it. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, because there's some stuff that I left out. So there's powers that you can get in this game that you can buy these powers. So, unlike Mario, where you get them while going through the course, or Mega Man, where you basically have to beat a boss to get a certain power for the most part. In this one, you can actually purchase power-ups. So all these I guess gold, and gems that you're finding throughout the game, you can go spend those in a shop, and you can get not just health, and you have like a kind of like a mana thing as well. So health, mana, and upgrades. So there's like armor upgrades that will give you different powers, and then also you've got upgrades or like powers that you can use in a stage. So for example, there's this one locket that you can buy that will turn you invisible for a short moment, and that is massively useful. I use that thing all the time. There's just so many cool other power-ups. You could just like throw fireballs, or there's like these bubbles that you could just bounce around a stage, which are really useful against bosses, I found later on. Yeah, really, really awesome stuff. And there's a lot of mini games in that too. I know Super Mario Bros. Had his mini games. Mega Man didn't really have anything like that. It was mostly just about getting from point A to point B. But here you've got, secrets to find, and, there's many bosses in some stages. It's got everything. It's got everything you could possibly want in a 2D side scroller. So yeah, that is why I freaking love that game. So yeah, let me think if there's any others. I basically talked about my top 3. So I think that might be good to start off this mini series. I apologize to anyone that was, that saw my announcement video and was waiting on this. It's just, a project I couldn't really take on, right away because I have a lot of stuff going on. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please, like it and comment and, all that other, YouTube bullshit. But mostly comment because, I want to know your guys' opinions on some of these games, or just, the genre in general. So thank you again for listening. Take care.